Waseem is the Global Vice President of Digital Experience at STANLEY Security. Over to you, Waseem.
Thanks, Christina. So today we're going to talk through how we look at digital experience through design. And before we get into kind of the specifics of that and how we solve a lot of our content and UX challenges, I'm just going to introduce us quickly. So we're STANLEY Security. We're part of Stanley Black & Decker. We're the biggest $2 billion company you guys probably haven't heard of. The second biggest security integrator in the world. So when we were looking at brand and digital design challenges, one of the things that we were really looking at is how do we get to global brand consistency? How do we put the customer first? And how do we think of things outside in as opposed to inside out? So when I joined in this role, we were just about to roll out brand standards. And the first question that came to mind was, are these user tested? Are they accessible? Are they well integrated through and through? And so we started to rethink because we had done this journey before. And a lot of times when you do this journey, you're thinking from the company out. So you're seeing a lot of stakeholders, you're talking to them, and you guys are building a digital experience, digital brand, but you're really thinking of it from the inside without asking the user and building it through. So placing the customer at the center of that experience, right, is the way to remove the false consensus. So what we did is we tested every single one of our digital brand components with active users, understood their preferences, both from an active customer perspective, but really more from the outside world. How do you interpret it? How do you see it? Is this design accessible? Does it meet the need? We start to break down those silos of false consensus or false preferences that are internal to us as opposed to our customer. Out of that, we built the first digital design system that's a living, breathing organism in Stanley Black & Decker's history. It was called a Deity. So we called it a Deity because a Deity is that ancient Sanskrit word for freedom, boundless, security, right? And that's really what a Deity is to us. It's this living, breathing source of truth that we can always add to. It lives online, and we can start to get consistency across the board, but really what we're after here is an understanding of, this is the truth that we have today, and that truth could change based on user testing or preferences as the brand templates and the brand designs change and evolve over time, because we live in a world where things are no longer stagnant, where you can't build brand templates and brand things that are going to survive years, but you're looking over months, year to year. You really always want to have this active, living, breathing organism. The great news is we've done this before and made a lot of mistakes. So we had built a dam before, and we thought we have an expression in New England where if you think something's great, you call it the cat's ass. We thought this thing was the cat's ass. It was going to do great. It did not resonate with our users at all. It was built on rigid hierarchy. People couldn't understand how to search for anything. People couldn't understand how to get to their assets. So when we were thinking, how do we take an Deity and bring it into a digital asset management and brand portal perspective? What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to make those same mistakes from our previous lives, right? But we knew we had to do this, right? We had built this design system, we built a Deity, we had tested it with the market, and we knew it was going to be really tough now in 11 regions, 6 brands. How do we get to all the assets that we have today that will work? how do we get to a point where we can start to process at scale and bring that brand consistency? So the impact of COVID actually forced us to accelerate on this brand portal DAM journey a lot quicker than we would initially have thought. What that led us to is the introduction of the Deity DAM. Unlike the previous DAM that we had, it didn't have, it was searched like you search in Google, right? So all the meta tags, all that functionality was built to scale, built from the way people search on their mobile phone, search on their desktop, right? It's cloud-based. The previous instance was really local. Now we're on the cloud, and what that does is it allows us to reach all of our users in all the regions without having to maintain a server and make sure it links and pushes through. It's all done on the cloud. It's all device agnostic, meaning they can use it across the board. Search was at the forefront, but really thinking through it, we also have the ability for the first time to get to partners, give them a profile, create different user profiles for different brands, different types, and create different partitions with those experiences. So it's custom and bespoke to that particular brand, to that particular role and function, and really learn from it, right? The nice thing about this experience is for the first time, we actually saw how people are interacting with our brand portal. What do they download? What do they prefer? And start to build more of that into the roadmap. And also conversely understand what things aren't working. What things do we have to improve upon? And the best way to do that is with that active user base. The level of scale that this enabled was pretty phenomenal. We're suddenly able to start to get our brand consistency in that Deity design language across the entire world. 11 countries, 10 brands, and start to gather a lot of the creative assets that we never knew existed. So, for instance, when we put this up, we met people across the org that we didn't even know worked for us. They said, hey, we have these great photos here. Can we add them here, right? We were able to, for the first time, put in photo releases with the assets. So we know how long we can use something, how often we want to use it, and so on, right? What use cases we can license it out. So we were able to actually get to a lot more of our owned assets that at one time lived in different people's box and Dropbox and OneDrive files, and put it all together, put it part of a structure. And for the first time, people in Central Europe were using the Nordics images, people in the Nordics were using the US's images, and so on and so forth, right? You're able to create templates at scale. So this really enabled our design language and our brand properties to scale out internally. So people have that one source of truth that's online in the cloud and seamless and effortless and matches their search experience. So where has this led us? If we look at it, we talk about that single source of truth. We finally have a single source of truth for photos, videos, and brand guidelines that's not coming in from our personal view on it, but from user preferences, and it's constantly iterating. We built search and search functionality that matches the needs, and we're analyzing the stats within the brand experience to understand what people are looking for. We've also introduced so many different templates, so many different assets that in a very short time, we already have over 1,400 photos and videos there. We've seen search being used significantly, right? Over 1,300 searches. And we've gotten to a lot of creative templates, right? So instead of us imposing our will and saying, you know, this is the creative and this is how it should be run, we're giving our teams a lot of options with social templates, with creative, and we're seeing how they use it, learning from them, and then starting to iterate at scale, which I think is really important. Fundamentally changing the paradigm so that it is an iterative, living, breathing Deity design system is what we're after through and through. If we look at where we're moving, we want to do a lot more within the brand portal. We want to take this to scale. We want to have many more assets and templates, right? Now with the markets opening up, we have a way to make our creative scale with impact. We have a way to really test our templates and not just learn from our external users, but from our internal users, how they want to interact with our design language. And as my designer would, as our lead designer would say, you know, you want to be more awesome with all these things that we're doing, right? So there's always a ton of room for improvement in what we're doing, what we're pushing through, and we're getting better every day. It's definitely an iterative process, but without us going through that discipline, without COVID hitting and kind of accelerating that game plan, I don't know if we would have gotten here, because the market's closing, the ability to not do as many shoots, all of these things contribute to really needing to have an outside-in view, aggregate and start to scale and learn from your users, because that online experience is everyone's day-to-day. And those friction points are felt and multiplied at scale. I know I kind of rushed through that a little bit because of time, but happy to take a couple minutes to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Waseem. And really appreciate you sharing that. Sorry to all of the audience members again for the late start. We were having some technical difficulties, but I'm really pleased that we were able to hear from Waseem in this time anyway. So we've had a couple questions come through, and if anybody has any more questions, we do have a little bit of time, so drop those in the Q&A section. Question from Isabel: are you using DAM in any new ways to handle content in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we're using it for is social templates. So we probably built out 40 or 60 different social templates for recruiting, for different messaging, for different use cases, right? So it allows us also to A/B test at scale, which is really nice. The other thing that we're going to institute in the next few months is digital asset transformation. So kind of using the brand portal to inform what's on our website and locking that in for the different regions, right? So the ability to say, hey, I want these images on these regions at all times and optimize them across the board.
Oh, I like that. That's really going to help the digital experience, isn't it?
1000%. 1000%, because a millisecond in speed is worth its weight in gold. Plus the ability to like not have someone in the Netherlands change the asset hierarchy within a site, or vice versa in the Nordics and so on. That brings scale, and that also brings brand consistency, which is quite nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Ryan is asking, what was the biggest challenge you faced with shifting to more of a digital experience for content, and how did you overcome those challenges?
I think the biggest challenge is breaking it from the this is the way we've always done it, right? And putting the power in the user's hands, right? Because I might have a preference, my designer might have a preference, our brand team might have a preference. Our preferences are kind of irrelevant when it comes to what the user processes, what the user sees, what the user is after. We used to have an old brand templates that had like a triangle, and a lot of people were saying, well, that looks like it's an incomplete design. Where's the rest of it, right? So that was the big aha, to say, hey, look, you don't want to do those types of things because people are not processing it the way you think it's a design flourish. Or those micro animations, right? Like a lot of times designers love those micro animations, but those fail accessibility. And with 1/5 of the population having a recognized disability, that's a big swath that you're just removing from your design system's use.
Yeah. And you said something in your presentation that I thought was so simple, but yet so important, is talk to your users, right? Get out there and actually talk to people and say what's working, what's not working. And that's how you kind of uncover what are the real challenges and how we can solve that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the power of false consensus is a really potent one, right? We learn from our mistakes there. I think also knowing that the brand is a living, breathing organism, so it's always going to change, and your DX and your DAM, they have to reflect that.
Absolutely. So Craig's got a great question here. So he's asking, how familiar was senior management with this approach and with DAM? And you, as the global vice president, you're obviously very high up in the company. So how did DAM get escalated all the way up to your level?
I'd say learning from previous mistakes is a big one in life, right? So the good thing is, having had, getting to my role, I had all the different roles that I now manage, right? And understanding the value of it and the need of it once you get to a time like COVID, right? Because pre-COVID, you could always say, well, we're going to be in that market, we can distribute it, we have in-persons, we can do those things. Now with COVID hitting, you don't have shoots, you don't have all these things. And so if you don't have content, if you don't have assets, and if you can't do that on the cloud, you're really in trouble. So it was always on the roadmap. It just got like kicked up 10 notches in need and relevancy.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that DAM has been escalated so high in the organization, and that it is a conversation you're having with senior management. I think that's one of the challenges that many companies face, is that that it's just not as visible yet at the executive level. But hopefully, like you said, maybe COVID is pushing that in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down, all of our jobs come down to storytelling, right? And I think for anyone listening, it's really the value you're showing from it, right? If you're showing the commercialization value of a DAM, of a brand portal, of a design system, it's much more likely to have the halo effect that's going to be supported by senior management than if it's just the standalone that, hey, this would be really good for the organization. Okay, how does it drive to the bottom line? How does it drive efficiency? How does it drive to our end user experience? How does it improve CX? Those are all things you really want to think through and you want to inject into that experience.
Oh, I love that. Waseem, let's have another session some other time about KPIs and metrics and how to.
Anytime, I'm here. I rushed it. I only had 10 minutes for a main course, but hopefully there's some good takeaways there that the team can use. And if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Just reach out on LinkedIn and I'd be more than happy to chat to anyone.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Waseem. And yeah, you heard the man. If you have any questions, just reach out, and hopefully we can do another session on metrics and KPIs. I think that'd be fun.
We'd love to. Thank you, Christina. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, so up next on track 1, we explore bridging the DAM with Deutsch LA, or head to track 2 to discover how to drive digital experiences with a headless DAM. See you shortly. Thank you.